Okay. And we are live. And hi, everybody who's watching. My name is Osasa Eweka Smith, and I am the producer of the film Beyond Curls and Kinks, which talks about follow these women and the other ladies that are not able to make it today, and their natural hair stories and journey over the years, and talking about the different social issues around natural hair, like identity, self-esteem, confidence, and our sense of self as Black women in Canada. And I'm just going to hand it over to the ladies for them to introduce themselves, and so you can get to know them a little bit better before we get into the film and watch it. Go ahead. Stephanie, you can go first. Top of the lineup.
Hello, everyone. hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie. I am the founder and producer of the Textured Hair and Beauty Show, formerly the Toronto Natural Hair and Beauty Show, and I live out here in Toronto, Ontario.
Portia, it looks like you are next in line.
Oh, hi, everybody. Great to be here this evening. Looking forward to watching this doc again. I enjoyed it so much the first time. My name is Portia Clark. I live in Halifax, and I'm from Nova Scotia, and I host a radio show here, Information Morning, and I have 2 kids who also have natural textured hair, and it was great fun to be part of this conversation, making the documentary, and I'm looking forward to the panel discussion tonight. Thank you.
Is that me next?
Well, it looks like you're next in line.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nilo, owner-operator of Aphrodisiac Natural Shop in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. And I am the same as Portia. It was fun to be a part of the documentary. So looking forward to seeing it again. And Michelle, you're next.
Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. I'm here. I am a school administrator, and I also am the owner of Woke Family Financial Coaching.
Michelle, I can't hear you well.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Michelle here, and I am a school administrator and also the owner of Woke Family Financial Coaching. I have 2 daughters with natural hair, and had my own journey of going from weaves and wigs to natural hair, and it was an awesome opportunity to participate in this film. So thank you, Osis, for the opportunity, and I'm excited to see it again as well.
For anybody who's watching, what we're going to do is just to make sure that everything is okay for you, the sound is okay for you, and the visual is okay for you. I'm going to play the bloopers first so you can see. It's just a 1-minute long bloopers. And after that, I'll come back and ask you and see if the sound and visual is okay for you. And then you can leave me a comment in the comments and say yes, no, yes, no. And if something is not working correctly, then we'll fix it before we get into the real movie. Okay?
Sounds good.
And go. Of course, I have to be sharing my screen with you first. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Audio is there. Okay. Okay. And clap. And go.
We're not acting over here. No. Because now we meet a lot of people of color. I don't know what's on the head. to be funny. I was just good talking, sorry.
How much you worth? Okay. It was making noise from there. What is that?
I'm asking. They're probably like, what's going on in there? Oh, you might be time for that ball of hair incident happened. You heard people chuckling and saying things like, do you remember like what they were? Or
Just one.
yeah.
Is that a cat?
black cat on your head? I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. You said a cat. I'm sorry. Okay, I can't. I'm getting myself together. I'm all right. Okay. Focus. Okay. Okay. So that was not a cat. Do you remember any time where you had a style that your mom did that you really liked? Like, what was that? No. I'm like, I'm having moments of like nice hairstyles. Alright. I don't, yeah, no, you guys want to start.
Can somebody tell me in the comment, was it good? Was it let's not do that. Okay. Can somebody tell me in the comments, was the sound okay? Was the visual okay? All good? Play movie? Yeah? Awesome? Good? Seems to be working here. Sounds clear. Okay, cool. All right, I'm going to play the movie. Screen sharing is a thing. Let's do that.
Curly, coily, kinky. Natural hair comes out sizes, curl patterns, and all kinds of beauty. That is Afro textured hair that is not stained in any form. And an interesting fact, it's the only type of hair on humans that goes against gravity. For Black people, natural hair means culture, tradition, and heritage. It's something of pride that's worth celebrating. That's a lot of goodness packed into this one-of-a-kind type of hair, right? But the truth is, natural hair is also one of the most controversial hair types you'll ever come across. The controversy is so real for us people who wear our natural Afro-textured hair that it affects who wants to date us, who wants to hire us for a job, who wants to let us into their social circle. To make matters worse, we also get it from our loved ones. Harmful comments, attitude, and other behaviors from our family members that further hurt our self-esteem, confidence, and sense of self. Clearly, natural hair goes beyond curls and kinks. It doesn't take me as long to do my hair in the morning these days. I often put it in a bun and put some products in it and go. Coming from Nigeria, I didn't grow up thinking that it was a problem. Where I came from, hair is celebrated, and moving here, it was very different. And being able to go back to wearing my hair like this, it took me back. It just really made me fall in love with my culture all over again, that I can be who I am without having to change. I grew up in Nigeria, in Benin City, Edo State, and what I loved about growing up back home was how confident people that I had in my life were, and especially the women, just being very strong women. Hair was important. Hair was a significant thing because it told us who is who in the community, where people come from, who their families are. the way that we do our hair for different occasions meant something. We moved to Canada when I was around 13, and my first point of entry into Canada was Halifax, Nova Scotia. It was a culture shock in terms of different things like food, the way people look, the way people talk. And I think what was hard for me at the time was just finding where I fit in. I was seeing more people with relaxed hair than I normally did when I was growing up back home. I remember I would buy those YM magazines and I would just be flipping through it. And it was really hard to not see yourself in those magazines. No complexion looks like you, nothing looks like you. All you see is straight hair. Oh, that's European style of what body image is and should be. My first year in Halifax was very traumatic because here I was in a new country living with 3 men, my brothers and my dad. And my dad, bless his heart, dealing with a teenage girl, just didn't know what to do. So it was better to send me to aunties' houses to get my hair braided or to send me to a salon to get my hair relaxed and permed. I bought into the myth that it's easier to manage and also to be new in this culture where people have relaxed hair. You kind of want to fit in, right? And that was why I got into relaxing my hair and just doing different things to hide my textured hair. All of that was my experience growing up. For the past couple of years, I've been organizing the Edmonton Natural Hair Show in Alberta and the Maritimes Natural Hair and Beauty Show in Nova Scotia, a space where the community can come together and celebrate textured hair. Over the years, I've learned that other women had the same experience when they were also growing up. And the saddest part is that it's the same story for other women today, and kids too.
Whether we believe it or not, we are expressing our history. There are some who will say, listen, I'm not putting anything in my hair. And when I say anything, not even moisturizers. And there's another set that says, no, I have to upkeep myself because I remember the story of 400 years without a comb and my slave master and that look. I don't want to look like that.
What does slavery have to do with anything? Slavery might have ended a long time ago, and you would think all of that is behind us, but that's far from the truth. I wanted to talk to someone who sees all kinds of people coming through her door to get their hair done.
I remember my first perm was just for me, super. It was like this white, creamy mixture. When it went on, it had to be like combed and smoothed out, but it could not be combed too much or else your hair would come out. So when you first put it on, you have to smooth it out and then just leave it. In memory, I can feel that stinging. And then there's also that overwhelming chemical smell. In the first couple of times, like you smell, you're like, oh, I'm gonna have a fresh hairdo. And then after a while, it like kind of starts, for me, it started to feel like dread. I literally had pieces of my scalp like burnt and clumping off with hair stuck in it, and it was like bleeding and scabby, and I was like, okay, maybe we're not gonna do this anymore because it doesn't work. And at that point, I was getting perms in the professional salon.
Why do you think we put ourselves through that kind of a process to have our hair to be straight?
I think as a woman, there's an expectation that you have to go through a certain amount of pain in order to maintain what would be considered your beauty. And I think that there's an idea that if you don't give in your discomfort, that you're not going to get the outcome that you want to get. The entire beauty industry looks at Black hair as a starting point and not as the finishing point. I think that it's like a gradient that starts maybe with blonde hair and blue eyes. There are people who have dark brown hair and brown eyes who wear blue contacts and dye their hair blonde. It just happens to be that with darker skin and coiled hair, we're a lot further away. So what winds up happening is the things that we have to do to jump across that gradient to get there are a lot more detrimental. And we see it in terms of skin lightening. We see it in wearing straighter hair as well. I don't want to attribute wearing wigs and weaves and straight hair solely to wanting to achieve Europeanized beauty standards, because we like to have fun and do different things, and there's a lot of people who like to do that. I think it's important that you're allowed to wear your hair however you want to. You just don't feel like you have to in order to succeed, and that you don't feel like you have to in order to be accepted. I think historically, the care of Black hair is something that was passed down from mother to daughter, particularly in many tribes. Unfortunately, because of the transatlantic slave trade, there's a lot of interrupted history. There are families split apart, there's traditions split apart, and then also the mixing of that, because people in one space or one plantation weren't from the same places. You would just take the laborers that you need from different tribes and put them together, and a lot of that traditions were lost. If I'm thinking about how it is on the plantation, like if you have straighter hair, you kind of get to go inside versus being outside. There is, from that time, a point where you can see you get the better job with this hair. Remembering that we come from a tradition of hairstyles reflecting your social standing. We come from that tradition before colonialism was introduced. So we just took that colonialism and layered it over this tradition that we already had. And because the guy who's doing the best in all of this has straight hair, the lady who kind of has the power, she has straight hair, it makes sense that we would want to emulate those hairstyles of the person who is in charge of stuff.
No doubt that historical events like slavery really affected the way the world thinks about a Black person's body, from hair to toe, and in turn, how we Black folk feel about ourselves. If you do the math, it might shock you to learn that Black people had been out of the physical and visible bondage of slavery for that long. Slavery ended about 130 years ago. Jim Crow laws ended about 50 years ago, and apartheid about 20 years ago. But that's just how long Black people have had to start thinking about ourselves differently, after more than 550 years of being told and treated otherwise. I wanted to speak to someone who could weigh in on how Black people's hair journey has evolved over time. And that's where Judy comes in.
I think back in the 70s and 80s, there was a stronger pride in Black beauty out of desperation, because things were really bad politically. Still on television and the magazines and stuff, it was, all white people you were seeing. And then the Black Power movement showed up, and like we were out there with the fists and the whole works. We were engaged and we were part of the society. For me, hair is very political. I wish it didn't have to be, because to me it's just an appendage like your fingers or your hand or anything. But in the political climate that we are living in, we are forced to use it as a political weapon. It should be just hair.
What was your experience like when you first moved here compared to like how natural hair was back home and what you saw it as when you first moved to Fort Mac?
I think back then when I moved to Fort Mac as well as Edmonton, I never felt the intention was to dehumanize. I thought that it was more about curiosity. But I hated people touching my hair because there were not a lot of Black people coming to live in Fort McMurray at the time.
How was it finding products or salons or stylists or just generally taking care of your hair?
Actually, I was going through some of these, and there's a haircut.
How old would you say you were in that photograph?
That was probably in 1980. That was an ebony and ivory haircut.
It's a really unique style.
And then there's another afro.
Oh, this is nice too. Oh, I like the smiliness.
It seems today more of our people are buying into the fake hair and all this other stuff compared to, say, maybe the 70s and the 80s, where people were more talking about pride in being Black. I think wearing hair other than your own has negative impact on who we are as Black women, because we're no longer appreciative of who we are as individuals or as a people. And we see others as being more important. And this ties in with colonialism and imperialism in the sense that we were made to feel, and I'm going to cry, we were made to feel that we were not good enough. Everything was wrong. And it persists today. And it's sad that our people have bought into that paradigm. It is so, so sad to witness. That is disheartening. Very disheartening.
Natural hair affects people beyond the strands that are on our heads. For hundreds of years, Black people have been consciously and unconsciously subscribing to harmful narratives that have severely damaged our self-esteem, confidence, identity, and culture. I wanted to find out why we continue the negative narrative. For me, that means going back to where it all started.
We are here in Halifax because, in a way, my passion for natural hair started from here when I was young, learning about a different culture, learning about what textured hair means here. I remember growing up and what I was seeing around me in the city, from my school system to my social circles to just out in the community. It's like, oh no, your hair is a problem. It determines a lot of things that affect you in life, like your romantic relationships and your employability. All those thought processes started growing in my head. And how can you talk about Black hair in Canada without covering Viola Desmond?
Most people probably know her as the lady on our $10 bill and the person who fought racial segregation at a movie theater in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. Some people probably don't also know that she was actually a trailblazer in the Black hair and beauty industry in Canada. At the time, she saw that there were no products or courses available in the province to learn the skills she needed to care for Black hair. She decided to go to Montreal and New York to get the training. She had a salon and a school and taught what she learned to the community. She knew that representation mattered and actually did something about it, especially in a difficult era. I have to commend her for that. The natural hair community is an extension of what Viola Desmond did decades ago. The natural hair community is building and sharing resources where none were available before. Everyday people and hair professionals are learning skills that they are passing on to others about this unique hair that was disregarded for so long by product companies, salons, and society.
It's Friday, January 10th. Good morning.
While I'm in Halifax, I wanted to take the chance to talk to someone who's a big supporter of both hair shows, Portia Clark. Viola Desmond was a trailblazer for what she contributed to the Black hair community. Portia Clark is a modern-day trendsetter for wearing her hair natural on TV.
I grew up in a white household. I'm adopted, so I was the only Black person in my family. So I was the only person who had Black hair, obviously. So my mom found it a bit challenging, I think, to do my hair and to know how to do my hair because everybody else had straight blonde hair. And I think I just, in general, didn't like my appearance that much either because I didn't look like anybody in my family or in my community because I grew up in a small Nova Scotia fishing village where there wasn't any other Black people. We would come up to Halifax and she would take me to salons or she would take me to a friend of hers who had Black hair and ask her to give me some advice on my hair. So I really appreciate what she tried to do. It was all part of a bigger picture, I think, though, of me struggling with acceptance of myself, the hair was kind of a symbol of that. But then when I went to TV, that's when I started thinking, so do I need to change it somehow and maybe straighten my hair again and go to a more traditional, because everybody talks about anchor hair. Anchor hair is straight from what I could see. Like any news person usually has straight hair. So I was struggling with, well, maybe I should go back to having straightened hair because it'll look more, I'll fit in more and seem more like the person that I'm trying to be on TV. We had image consultants who would come in and talk to us about our look on TV and give us tips on improving how we looked. And usually what I got from the image consultants was to make my hair smaller so it was less distracting to the audience and that you could see more of my smile in my eyes, my communicators. But I did struggle a bit with how I should present myself and whether I should, get a weave or wear a wig or whatever. But I just couldn't bring myself to wear a wig because I would just feel like really not me, like not my hair. And I didn't want to go back to straightening it all the time. People have told me afterwards that they thought it was kind of a bold choice for me to have my hair natural on TV because nobody else really did. And I didn't really think of it as a bold choice. I just thought of it as a practical choice and one that would suit me more.
Practical. That's one reason some people might say no to wearing their natural textured hair. It's not practical enough. It's not something enough.
When patients come in and they will start pulling out all these negative things, my hair is tough, my hair is hard, my hair is dry. So why would you say that about yourself? My mother said it, or I'm so used to hearing that. And I say, you have to stop that cycle. It's bigger than just the hair. Intergenerational trauma happens more often than we know.
Like Dr. Wong points out, the words that come out of our mouth about our textured hair are more than just words. They come from a deeper place outside of ourselves. They are from our parents and their parents, and their parents' parents, and continue to be passed down.
It's so good to see you.
Michelle, a mother of 2 girls, chatted with me about how the language her family used to talk to her affected her and now possibly her girls.
When I was 5, which is the same age as my youngest daughter, my oldest sister relaxed my hair for the first time with adult relaxer, not kid relaxer, not child-friendly relaxer, with regular adult relaxer. And the thing is that at 5 years old, I did not have the wisdom to own that decision. So all that happened was now someone else has relaxed my hair because they told me it was too nappy and too unkempt and they couldn't manage it. So they relaxed it and then slowly my hair started to drop out. But the narrative at that time was do anything to cover these kinks, basically. It was this narrative that was ingrained by actions, because actions speak louder than words. And when you tell me that my hair is nappy and it's unkempt and you use words, but then you also back it up with actually trying to change it and saying you are just not good enough in your natural state, that stays with you. And I never wanted to do that to my girls, but I was doing that to my oldest daughter with my verbiage because that's what I was taught. Those things are passed down. We're told that it's not going to be professional. It's not going to be accepted in the workplace. Sometimes we're told that from our families. I know my own mother has told me, you're not really going to go to an interview like that. And I'm like what? This is just the hair on my head. She goes, go put a wig on that. We've had those messages delivered to us and we receive those and it tells us we're just not enough. And so because a lot of individuals are not choosing to own that aspect of themselves, their natural hair, we've converted to a Eurocentric form of beauty. Before going natural, my language definitely was not in alignment with where it should have been. When I spoke to my children, I would say, oh, your hair looks nappy, or your hair looks messy, or it looks rusty. And she saw it normalized for me that my own hair wasn't sufficient and that when we would go somewhere special, I had to make sure I went to the hairdressers and paid a whole heap of money to go get a whole new hairpiece installed because what I had on my hair naturally was not sufficient for this big event. And I had to explain to her, honey, your hair is absolutely beautiful. You don't need to straighten it and put chemicals in it because I knew what struggles I had gone through. And even though I was still
not at that place yet for myself. I didn't want her to have to go through that because I spoke the wrong narrative over her. I wanted to teach her the right narrative. That was a big pushing factor as well for me to go natural, because I said, I can tell her all her life, but if I walk around here not owning that for myself too, she's never going to truly take that in for herself. So I've got to also change my narrative for myself. And I have found that just by embracing it for myself, I have met little girls and their hair is not natural, but because they can see another individual who looks just like them, you're black as well too, and they say, wow, your hair is pretty, and can I touch it? And all of a sudden it normalizes it for them, that this is okay. I don't have to be ashamed of my hair, my head, irregardless of what the narratives are in my own home. There is women out there who are embracing it, and there's going to be a time that that child may make the decision to embrace it for themselves, and it may simply be because they saw enough people around them who are doing it for themselves.
Wow! That's exactly what it's all about. The next generation and the kind of message they're getting. When I was growing up in Halifax, I only had magazines filled with people who didn't look like me. I didn't have many options. The good news is that the natural hair community is growing online and reaching kids everywhere, thanks to websites and personal blogs, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Kenya is one of the most popular Canadian natural hair social media influencers on Instagram. She's leading the change in the online world in a positive way.
I started my Instagram page about 7 years ago. I have 110,000 followers. And my YouTube channel, I have about 27,000 subscribers. It was mainly for the first probably year, just me doing hairstyles, natural hairstyles. And it started to grow from there. I posted a picture of me and my daughters from about when they were like 6. And then I put up a more recent picture of how we look now, throwback Thursday. And the picture went viral. I find social media has a really big impact on the natural hair community. If you're not natural and you go on Instagram and you see all these lovely natural hairstyles, you're going to be so tempted, motivated, encouraged to switch over. I wasn't as confident in my natural hair until I started seeing all this natural hair stuff going on Instagram. It's almost like a domino effect. Okay, I see you, I ask about your hair, I want to try it, I go do what you do. I get the hang of it. Someone sees me, oh, your hair looks nice, what do you use for you? So it keeps going. Like everyone keeps wanting to do the natural thing because they see someone who looks really nice on it. They want to at least try it. And you can find these videos in every different hair type. There's a video for everybody on YouTube. If you have questions about how do I do this, how do I go natural? Having healthy hair, knowing how to care for my hair means a lot more to me, that I'm able to care for the hair that just grows naturally from my head and not have to alter its kinkiness, its curliness. I can just leave it the way it is.
For sure, the natural hair community has grown beyond leaps and bounds. But it's not all happy faces on social media, because there's still some pushback, even in the Black community, about how people should wear their hair.
Here's the very first show, the very first meetup. Oh my God.
I'm inspired by Stephanie Joseph, the founder of the Textured Hair and Beauty Show in Toronto. I spoke to Stephanie to find out her passion for starting the show and how she sees the bashing that's happening in the online community.
The reason why I started was to create a platform for women to come out and learn more about their hair in its natural state. And not only women, men as well, because it would have been nice for my father to know how to take care of my hair when I was younger. And not only for Black women, but for other cultures to come and get an understanding of what our hair is like and our culture as well. Over the years, the show has changed where I've seen more and more women who come out who have a looser texture. And now I've changed the name from the Toronto Natural Hair and Beauty Show to the Textured Hair and Beauty Show because my demographics were changing. For example, the Egyptian woman that I met, beautiful head of hair, very curly. She's like, I don't like my hair. People don't take me serious if my hair is not straight. And I was like, wow, like there's a whole nother world out there that people with natural hair that this show can also benefit.
in the natural hair community, online, do you feel that there's bashing and negative talks amongst people that have different hair types?
Oh yeah, there's always a fight going on. And the first things first, I always say, look, people act like they've never had a relaxer in their life. And those are the people that I can't stand. Let them come into it when they want to come into it. You don't have to go around bashing someone because of how they choose to wear their hair. When I used to wear my hair in an afro, I remember one time I took my son to the barber shop and I walked in and a gentleman said to me, "What are you going to do with that?" And I was like, I looked at him, I'm like, "That what?" He's like, "You're here." "What do you mean? What are you going to do with that?" I said, "This is the way my hair grows. I'm surprised that you've been asking me this." But again, to some people, the older ones, maybe not all, it's still looked at as a bad thing.
The natural hair movement is a powerful movement because it's a movement of expression. It also shows a major disconnect with identity. In order for you to take that step to wear natural hair, you also have to condition your mind, change your mindset, and change it to the point that you are connecting with the change. So, what did people say about your hair today at school? Did they notice it was different today?
Yeah. As soon as I walked into the classroom, everyone was just watching me like, what is that?
Well, I know you don't wear braids very often, but you sometimes.
I never wear braids. I have never walked into my classroom with braids in my hair.
It's important to show her different ways of taking care of her hair and empower her to see the versatility of her hair. And so when we have the discussion about why she hates her hair, then we get into, well, is it because you don't like the way you look? And for her, it's more she wants to have flowing, flippable hair. She wants straight hair. Do you like the look of your hair being big?
Yes, but I'd rather my hair straight.
Why?
Just
I braid it in different ways. I show her that if she leaves the braids in and lets them dry and then takes them out, she can have a different texture. And so hopefully already getting some of those ideas in her head about caring for her own hair, conditioning it and styling it so that she can actually do some different styles and see that it can be up, it can be down, it can be straight, and she doesn't feel as negatively about it.
thank you, Mommy.
You're welcome, yes. You look beautiful. Love it. Love your hair.
The struggles that I went through in those early days of my natural hair journey have already happened. I can't change them. What we can do now is focus on the younger people coming up behind us and try to do right by them by watching our language around them and the way we talk about natural hair, whether that's our own hair, theirs, or someone else's.
Love it. It's really nice.
Yay! And by simply complimenting them and telling every little girl that we come across that she's beautiful beyond her curls and kinks.
Hi, everybody. I am just going to let Doc Wong in. I don't see her. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome.
Yes.
We are missing one person on the panel, and I'm just looking for her, and I can't find her. Yes, thanks for those who are able to watch. That is the movie. Hold on one second.
I feel like this is what you need, Osas, right here.
I'm trying to make. What do I need?
Oh, nobody, you didn't hear it? I did
Oh, no.
Okay, was
Dr.
it
Wong, I lost you. Oh. If you type something, Michelle, I didn't see it. Sorry. Give me 1 second. Just trying to get her in here. I don't see you. Hi, Dr. Wong, if you are watching, I'm calling you. So that is the movie. I just wanted to get a chance to show it to all of you who have been so supportive throughout the whole process of making it, and have a conversation about it with the folks in it whose stories you got a chance to see and hear about. I know, Stephanie, I'm trying to move you up from that main frame, and I
Thanks. I'm like, I
do
feel
that
like
right
everyone's
now.
just after me. Switch spots.
I think it's keeping you as the host because like you were the first to log in even before I logged in. So I think that's why you're out there.
Maybe I'll log out and come back in.
The floor is yours. Take it. Happy in that space. Sorry. Hi. Are you waiting in the waiting room on the backstage? I don't see you. Portraits of camera, I see that. I do not see you. I see everybody else in the space, but I don't see you. Did you use the link that I sent to you? Hello? Yeah, I see everybody. It would normally just have you pop up and then I can add you. Everybody, can you do me a favor, please? Michelle, Portia, Nicola, Stephanie, do you want to log back out? I'm going to stay here. Do you want to log back out and just pop back in, please?
Okay.
I just want to make sure we're able to have everybody on. Thank you.
So you mean leave?
Yes, and then log back in.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see her. Where's Dr. Wong? Okay, I see Nicola. Okay, you're on. Nilo is here. Michelle is here. Okay. Portia is back. Okay. I just had everybody log off and come back on, and they are all back on, and I don't see you still. And you and I did a test run and everything too. So yeah, we've done the process before. That's so weird. Yeah. Oh, jeez. Okay, now Michelle. Oh, there. Okay, so I see everybody. Okay, I still don't see her though. Yeah, there's space for one more person and more people, but I don't see her. That's so weird. Okay. I'm gonna just wait, yeah, for her to come. Hi, yes. So that was the film, and I'm going to start the conversation for the panel and get the ball rolling while we wait for Dr. Wong, as you all saw in the film, who was the other story in the film. To kick off the conversation, I would just like to know, does anybody here right now watching live, do you have any questions for the people and stories who share their stories in the film that you'd like to ask? I'm just reading people's comment. Boy, as great as yeah. So powerful. It was amazing. That was okay. My question is, I can get the ball rolling. My question is for Stephanie, Portia, Michelle, everybody. What, I know you folks on a personal level outside of, that's why I approached you to share your story and be a part of this project and stuff. But you didn't have to say yes. I've harassed you tirelessly for different things over the years, and you've always said yes. But I'm curious. I've never actually asked you this. But what inspired you? What made you say yes to be a part of this? What inspired you to want to be involved and share your story? Anybody can jump in.
I'll start. It's Nilo. So I think for me, starting being mentored in natural hair and having my first businesses in the States, I was like very aware of natural hair as a community. We used to do hair shows and go from city to city. So coming to Canada and being a part of a growing natural hair movement in Canada, I thought it was important for that story, specifically of Black Canadians and Black Canadians, their story and their journey pretty much around natural hair was important.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I think a lot of people, and it was referenced in your documentary, Osas, girls growing up, feel negatively about their hair, and we have that in common, or at some point in your life, that's the starting point, and then you go through whatever journey it is to reach the place where you're more comfortable with your hair, which is also part of feeling more comfortable with your identity and who you are in general. And I hope that other people, girls especially, I guess, will see that you can wear your hair naturally and you can be, successful, happy, all of that. But it's, you're somewhere in the journey. And I think all of the stories that we see in Beyond Curls and Kinks and Curls is, somewhere in a journey. And a lot of us who are in this documentary are at the end point of the journey and very confident in where we've arrived, but we've come from a certain place. And, with Yazzie too, she's even come a ways since she was in the movie, because if I had $1 for everybody who went up to Yasmin and said, "I love your hair," I think are you happier with your hair now than when you were in the movie, when you said you didn't like your hair? Yeah, so even in a year or so, she's come quite a ways. And why are you happier? Is it because people tell you that it's beautiful? You get positive feedback about it, or just time? She has things to say, not right now. But anyway, since then, she's been on her own journey.
Yeah.
For me, I said yes because I don't take opportunities for granted, and I wanted to be able to share my journey. And I'm grateful that you extended the invitation to me. So thank you again, and you did an amazing job on putting the documentary together.
Thank you.
I think with Stephanie that you don't take those opportunities for granted, and you really do just want to be able to share.
Michelle. You're a soft speaker.
Is that better now?
Much better, yeah. Maybe it's just me.
No, it's probably my speaker. But I resonate with Stephanie. Sometimes when you see an opportunity, you don't take it for granted. You want to share your experiences for it, because you never know who you're going to impact. There was people out there who impacted me in my natural hair care journey, and so you want to be able to step into that light where someone else can be impacted by your story, and you can share that journey forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you, ladies, for agreeing to be a part of it, and the ordeal that it has been, and the different ways that I've pulled you into this project. And you've always said yes to everything. My next question for you is, why do you think hair is so important in black culture, in the Black community, whether that's even natural hair or any type of hairstyle? Where do you think that comes from, or how far that goes back?
Good question.
So I just want to say that, by the way, anybody watching, you can ask questions. I don't have to hug the space.
In Detroit, in the African American Museum, there are artifacts that were slave artifacts that were essentially like little, not a pillow, but like a chin rest for your chin, so that the people who use them, the tribes that use them, when they had these big hairstyles that were like regalia, right? That is what they would use to like prop their head up to be able to sleep. And this is like pre-colonial tribal Africa. And I think it was like maybe the 14th century. And I was definitely shocked to be like, oh wow, so we've been doing this for a long, long time, right? Also interconnected to that was these pieces were typically handed down from mother to daughter. And then additionally, like there was this idea that your mother would visit you in dreams and advise you through this. So I guess I don't know the reason, but I feel like pre-colonial, transatlantic slavery, we definitely in a lot of different tribes, and still there's a lot of tribal representation for the role of hair as a part of your either stature or your personality or decoration or what have you. So I think that it's very deeply rooted culturally before we ever get to the States, right? And I think that is even reflected in how Jim Crow laws attempted to control hair from the time. So it was clearly important to the people who needed to control us to also control our hair, which we kind of still see nowadays, I guess.
I was gonna say, I think our hair is important. I know India Arie has that song, I Am Not My Hair, but our hair tells a lot about us, I think. You know, I'm lost for words here. What was I gonna say? Oh my goodness. It does say a lot. I mean, sometimes, you know, there are those stereotypes that come along with wearing your hair a certain way. Like if you have locks, and people automatically assume that you're Rastafarian, but it's like, no, I just want to wear my hair this way. Or if, you know, sometimes, like I know when I was wearing my hair short, you know, sometimes I would feel, even though I wanted it that way, I thought that people would automatically assume that I'm part of, like, for example, the LGBT community because I wore my hair short, but that's the way I wanted to wear it, you know? But I think that it always, like, it says a lot about us. And I'm sorry, I'm just lost for words. I really forgot where I was going with that. But yeah.
Maybe I'll come back to you.
Say that again?
So maybe you'll come back to you.
Yeah, you can definitely do that.
Anybody else wants to go at it?
There's a question here.
Yes.
Do you notice the difference in how people in the other regions across the country relate to your hair, or is there a common relationship across the board? I can only speak to that in terms of living. I'm from Toronto, from a big city that's very diverse and very multicultural, but I have lived and worked in Northern Ontario in small communities like Timmins, and then I've moved to somewhere like Edmonton, and definitely your hair, you're definitely, there's this perception on your hair that changes depending on the regions of Canada that you go. But I think that one of the benefits of experiencing that was I had no choice but to just embrace myself, love myself, and not worry about what the narrative was outside of me, because people were always going to have their opinions on it. And I think one of the detrimental things too that we as Black people do, and others have different opinions on this, and that's okay. But for me, sometimes someone of another culture will ask a question, and if they're asking it in ignorance, or they just don't understand and just don't know. And sometimes we can respond poorly and not really help that narrative be explored. And I just think it's really important when I'm in different regions where I find that there is a lack of awareness or, just ignorance around our hair, and are asked or comments are made, I usually take that opportunity to just inform, not in a negative way, just inform and say, hey, actually, I prefer it to be called locks. I don't like the word dreadlocks to be used for my hair. Or I just approach it and just, make a comment and share what I can share with them to kind of enlighten them. So that's the major thing I've noticed across the different regions in Canada, is that there's some places like Toronto where it's so diverse and people are a little bit more well-versed and, more exposed to, the variety of hairstyles and types from different cultures. And there's places like Timmins where you might be the only Black person they've seen in 6 years. So
God bless you, Michelle, for taking that role.
And you know what? I don't like doing it, but at the same time, I also acknowledge that I have questions about Indian culture. I have questions about Asian culture, and I can sit in my ignorance around it and make assumptions and think that I know it or pretend like I actually understand it. But in reality, if I don't understand it, what I should have done was ask the question.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else want to respond to employees' question? I would like to ask a follow-up question to that. Is I'm in the same boat as you, Stephanie, in terms of like playing that educator role. But sometimes I find it really taxing, and I'm just like, not today. I don't have the time. Don't ask me. # read a book.
Hashtag Google.
Right? Hashtag Ask Siri.
I don't know a lot of things about different cultures. If I want to learn, I have access. I have a library card. I have internet. I ask a friend who's from that culture. It just like even like for me, I don't know if anybody else does it. I hope you don't do that because it's just ugh. I know for me as a Black woman with natural hair, especially when I have my hair out in a fro, I feel that I have to be this persona when I am around non-Black kids, because they might not ever get an experience to be, they might not again get an opportunity to be around another Black person, another Black woman with a fro or with the way that I look. I feel that I have to be this thing for them to be this positive Black woman who's not that yelly, sassy, stereotype that they see on TV, that their moms and dads who are might not be from the Black community see on screens or in the media and so on and so forth. And when it comes to my hair, I feel like for those little ones, I feel like I have to like be this thing for them so they can have a positive experience and know that not all Black people are like that, right? Sorry, I don't know why I'm speaking in that voice, but does anybody else ever feel that way, or has anybody else ever done that when it comes to the younger generation of non-Black kids, especially, like to be this other positive thing for them?
I can't say I have.
I think in grade school, my dad used to say that to me, like they might never XYZ. And I did grow up in Beaumont, and a lot of those people went on to never know another Black person in their lives, for sure. However, I guess I learned a while ago that no matter what I do, and this is not everybody, that this is me specifically, I tend to get perceived as like this angry, Black, sassy, oh, you don't want to get Nilo upset, like don't let Nilo know, here comes Nilo. Or like if somebody does something that people feel like is violating, like you talk bad about natural hair or you say something racist, people like inbox it to me or send it to me like I'm gonna be the warrior that's gonna go out there, and I'm like, y'all, I'm literally just living life. Like, so yeah. I think that what I've been trying to do is like make space for myself and not like sometimes I think I just said this in an interview that for Black women specifically, all of the emotions that are not happy get misconstrued as angry. Like you can be hurt, you can be sad, you can be upset, you can be frustrated, you can be disappointed. Like there's all these nuances. So I guess I stopped trying to be that person because it was exhausting, and I realized that no matter what I do, I am an angry Black person, so it's fine. I'll just be that.
I know. What really made me get into that was when I lived in Asia, and teaching little kids. Like I taught like grade from elementary school to high school kids, and literally like one of my younger kids, like 5-year-old back, his English name was Jack, came up to me one day with an eraser to my skin and did this, trying to, because he had never been around. No, but that's the reality in different parts of the world, right? Like they don't get to ever in real life meet people. Or even like when me and my brother Godwin came, he was also traveling with me and living in Asia with me. We, with a bunch of people, expats, went to the Great Wall of China. And for me, we're with like a group of like 12, 20 people doing the Great Wall of China. Everybody's like ahead of us, like halfway through, and we're way back, because people are literally stopping us to take picture, to touch my hair, to ask questions. It's like, so from that experience, I feel like, okay, I have this, I feel like I feel more obligated to be that representation. And you're definitely right. It's really exhausting. And I'm at the point now I'm just like, I don't care. But then I have little ones and cousins, nephews and nieces and stuff like that. But
I feel like I still experience that on a regular basis.
Do you?
Actually, I was just in Costco last week, and there was a young Asian family. It was the mom and the 2 children in the cart. And I could hear the little girl go, "Mommy, why is her hair full of worms?" And I know she's just looking at it as a kid. A kid is not, like, she's not coming from a biased position. She just does not know what she does not know, and maybe has not been exposed to someone who looks like me very often. So I took it upon myself and just kind of said to the little girl, "Hi." And she looked at me and didn't know what to do. And I said, "What's your name?" And she told me her name. And we just had a regular conversation like I would have with any other kid. And then I said, "Have a good day." I didn't address it. I simply just showed her, I don't have worms in my hair, and I am just a normal person. And what you want to take from that is what you're going to take from that. But I think you kind of need that opportunity to see. I was looking at the worms in her hair, but really she's just a person. And maybe just I don't know what I did or did not do for that child that day. And I don't know if I care what I did or did not do for that child. And maybe what I did was the right thing, and maybe what I did wasn't the best option. But I do find myself in those situations. I found myself in those situations many times, and it is exhausting. So I don't do it anymore. But if I feel like there's a moment that I want to take and do that, then yes, I will.
I feel conscious of that with Yasmin's hair because she usually has her hair out and very natural, and it's very big, and it's kind of a crowd stopper. And I know that there's a lot of attention that goes with that. And in some circumstances, she really feels like it's like what you were speaking about, she has to explain it to people, like, why is your hair like that? And it's just like that because it's like that. And so for me, I give her that advice about, you don't have to explain to anyone, and you don't have to you don't have to be the ambassador of natural hair just because you have noticeably natural hair. But sometimes as a mom, I do feel like I should put more effort into giving her a break from the natural hair and doing more styles with it that are a little less out there. So she almost gets a break from it sometimes. Yeah.
I have something to add to that.
Please.
Ladies, I'm so excited to be a part of this panel. And I have something to say to that. When I'm asked, why is your hair like that? I will reverse the question and ask, why is your hair not like that? And it actually creates a jolt. Like you could see the transition in the color of the person you're speaking. Like they're like really thinking about this in terms of the color of the hair, the texture of your hair. And you can see that they're actually saying, I wonder if I had curly hair, how would I wear it? What would I do? You could actually see an awakening moment that you could just see the transition. So I always reverse the question back and just really see how they answer the question. And then it determines whether I engage the conversation or I just keep walking. I'm sorry I'm late. I had an internet challenge, but again, I'm really excited to be a part of this vision and to be a part of the panel. So good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm so glad you made it. Oh my goodness. Does anybody else in the audience have a question? Thank you, Boy, for asking that.
I just, while anybody who's asking a question is answering a question, oh, my camera is stuck. But anyway, you should still be able to hear me. But I definitely do what Dr. Wong does, but I'm not as kind as her, unfortunately. So I'm like, I definitely like, I describe other people's hair, like they'll be like, oh, it's so big and it's so much, I could never, it's probably so hard to comb. And I'm like, yeah, I could never have flat limp hair that I wouldn't be able to like do. So I appreciate that. I appreciate that that method, but I'm not as kind as you, but I'm gonna try to be as kind as every single person on here.
Be yourself. The most important thing you get the message across.
Exactly.
You are all so inspiring to me.
You get the message across.
Actually, really,
it's not easy.
Your answer, I think it gives so much relief to us as Black people. And yeah, why are sometimes you don't question yourself in what you do, and I appreciate that because I'm questioning. Yeah, why don't I ask the question back?
That is excellent.
Try it. Just try it and see what happens. You literally change the narrative.
Yeah.
Wow.
You literally change the narrative, and that you rise above, which we are, but you elevate yourself. You become more empowering. You empower the conversation, and just try it and see. That will be the second movie you make.
I like that.
Bye, you ladies. I have another question. How, because I remember like 10 years ago, there was like nothing about natural hair anywhere on the internet, and then it exploded and it's everywhere now. And then then in the last year, with what's happened with Black Lives Matter and Floyd's death, how do you think the way things are right now is evolving or changing or impacting the natural hair conversation and Black women's experience about their body and how it's policed? And that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
But I know for sure that we have taken steps forward. The most important thing is to keep the momentum going, because we get attention. We always get attention. We're always making a positive sound, and this is historic. But the key is keeping the momentum going forward, not thinking back, not going back to, just keeping silent. So the fact that, for example, a platform such as this and listening to all the ladies' story, empowering stories, we got to keep doing it. Wear our hair with pride, represent ourselves and our sisters and our overall community with pride. And I believe those are key strategies to just keep going, because we made a great wave where persons that are not Black, that are very much integrated in what we're doing so much that in complete darkness, we all sound the same. So I think we just got to keep that momentum going. And I think with that, we'll see the next generation just automatically, as we say, catch the fire and just keep the light on.
Would anyone else like to add to that?
Let me put my headphones on. Back on. I definitely feel like when the Obama administration started, it was almost like a light switch for natural hair for folks. So I think that was like around 2008, I think. And to see where it has grown to now, while I do agree that we have come a long ways forward, I think that there are certain things that are happening in the natural hair industry because I feel like it's one of the last free markets that exist in terms of people having their own, sometimes family-based methods in terms of the way they do things, products in terms of what they make, philosophies in terms of the way they do their business. You have an opportunity as a person who is natural to choose a natural hairstylist that aligns with sort of what your thoughts and beliefs are. That is really exciting for me. But the flip side of that is that I feel like there's a little bit of I want to sort of empirically be on the top of this natural hair movement or be like the one who says how this is the way that it's done. And I think that framework is like a white supremacist empirical framework, and I do not want to see it applied to natural hair. I would like for people to go to who resonates with them and be able to practice the work that they do. So those are the things that I don't want to see gatekeeping going up. I definitely don't want to see regulating in a kind of way where, natural hair is the #1 creator of wealth amongst Black women. So having that, it feels like it's slowly sort of being adulterated in different ways. Brands being bought out by these giant monoliths, and those kinds of things can be disheartening, because I know that there's an ebb and flow to things. So it kind of makes you feel like you want to hold on to a thing, that is ever changing, but you don't want it to I just don't want the colonial filter to be on natural hair. And I feel like in some corners it's going in that direction. So
you brought up a really good point, and with me and Nilo are part of this WhatsApp group. To give you context, part of this WhatsApp group of different hairstylists and salons in Edmonton, and trying to bring conversation with the government of Alberta in terms of the state of the natural hair and the education around it. Who should teach it? Should it be, I don't want to say this, but we are part of that community. And she brought up a really good point in terms of, that gatekeeping. For me, I know, I even expressed this in our WhatsApp group because, this is really emotional for me, and I don't know why natural hair continues to be like this emotional thing to me. But I can also understand why, and I think it's because of my Nigerian heritage and how I grew up back home and how it's this is glorious, back home, and that's how I grew up, and I cannot shake the fact that in North America, this is what I'm dealing with. My Nigeria itself is changing this, but what I'm trying to say is that Nilo brought up a good point. What makes me really sensitive and upset is that, how does the Black community keep Black hair or natural hair in the Black community while still allowing space for people to be able to have their needs met when they go to hairstylists? For example, when a little girl who might be adopted, live in a rural community, go to a salon, and it's a small community, there's nobody Black to do their hair, and they're struggling. How can we make how can we make natural hair education accessible, but without it bankrupting and putting Black businesses and Black women and Black families at a disadvantage. Like Neil said, I agree with, you know, it's a way that Black families build intergenerational wealth, right? How can we keep that as is and continue to grow that, but at the same time giving access to that education so that little girl, when she goes to her salon, she's not turned down with the salon saying, oh, I don't know how to do Black hair, so I can just, imagine what happens to a 7-year-old or a 13-year-old to experience something like that, whether in the rural community or the urban community. So that's my biggest question of 2020 and 2021 still, because I don't have an answer to that, and the government expects an answer. I'm like, I don't know. Like, so as sisters in this space, we're having this conversation right now. How do you see natural? How can we serve everyday people and keep the natural hair or Black hair in a space or situation where it doesn't disadvantage the Black community? Because oftentimes people come into the Black community and take that are not from the Black community, and it hurts. Spill. But
that's a loaded question, and I'm going to give it a loaded answer. My first training started in hairdressing school. It's through the science of hair. I just kept studying to where I am today, a couple PhDs later, because hair science was just so important to me. And I remember going to the beauty school in Toronto, and we got to the Black hair section. And of course, it was like 4 or 5 pages on Black hair, while the whole context of the book was everything to do with the straight hair. And I remember, like all profession, you get to the practical section, and the Caucasian teacher, she didn't know where to put the relaxer. Clearly, there was the kinkier part and the straight part, and I end up doing one of the demo. So I was teaching her. Of course, they were paying her, but I was teaching her to teach the class on Black hair. And of course, it was a diverse class. So we were teaching, they had us, the few Black girls in the class, we were teaching them how to braid, 3-strand braid, 4 braids, and so on, and how to relax. And I was oblivious to know that, wait a minute, you guys are teachers. This section, I think, is equally important, or should have had the same empowerment as 97% of the book. So we went to the teacher, and particularly the Black teacher, and we empowered her. And the next thing you know, it cost extra, but we started the Black hair movement, where she was now teaching specifically Black hair. And everyone else started to come over because they were fascinated in terms of how we go from kinky to straight, and if you leave it out curly or wet, it can revert back. So education is an important tool, and I think we as a community have to get back to the place of re-educating ourselves as well, because there's been a lot of myth about hair care, and so on. And not because there is no rearranger or chemical in the hair, it simply means it has put us at an advantage. There is still disadvantage because of lack of information. So I think we all need to be educated, and through that knowledge, again, this is the momentum to keep us going further. And I think it's a great platform for us to build upon, and of course, build generational empowerment through our hair. Because once the understanding came through, it was a dichotomy. The switch was amazing, where nobody wanted to sit in the traditional class. Everyone gravitated, Black hair can do this, Black hair can do that. And then everyone was now braiding and putting in extension and understanding why we moisturize the hair and why the textures were so different. And there's so much miscommunication in our community. There's one key thing that I noticed. I guess people are always changing. They change information to create some adjustment or awareness. But I think it's important that we stick to the foundation. For example, the science of our hair. There's no such thing as a 4C or a 4K and all the other new terminology. There's only three dimension that hair grows in, or the texture, or the pattern of your hair will come out. And it has to do with whether the cell is flat, whether it's round, or whether it's curved. That's it. So I've noticed that they are extension of knowledge that people have just taken the same information and put new name to it. But I think it's important that we maintain the education, the wisdom, the science behind it. And I think there lies our power and empower us to keep going forward. So we all need to be re-educated, because there are lots of myth out there that is coming from our own community. And again, to keep the money in our community, we gotta go back to the basic, which is education, education, education. Then when we step out, you put the petition in to government saying, listen, this section of the cosmetics or just about beauty, this is important because we're visible. We're a visible minority, but we're also we're obvious. And our texture, our color, our curve, everything about us, it requires full attention. So just like then, going to the teacher and to listen, we need to know more about us, or we need to see ourselves reflected in this. And just to see the shift happen, I still think that we have that voice, and through the education aspect, I think we can definitely do it. And the money will follow. Definitely the money will follow. So I think that's just basically what I observe. I've also, you talk about a gatekeeper. I remember seeing in one of the national shows, well-known talk show person from our community, and she chose a Caucasian lady to teach about Black hair. And the backlash was amazingly, of course, negative. So she tried to justify to say, well, based on what she had seen this Caucasian lady do, as to why she chose her, because the person she went to, they didn't have the supporting education, and she said, not because a person is Black doesn't mean that they understand Black hair. So it comes back down to education.
I get that, but not because like there are Black people that understand Black hair. So she didn't. I don't know the situation. So I just want to be clear that I don't even know the situation that we're talking about. But just as you can go to two people and say, okay, this person's better for the job, like this comes with, not to make it into another thing, but finding Black service providers for things, right? Like when you go to a doctor, I realized the other day I had all white male doctors literally my whole life. Like I think I had a white female doctor at one point. But the thing is that when the doctors are good for me, I just go to another one and it's a white male again, and it's a white male again. At no point am I like, you know what? I'm gonna stop going to these white men because it's not working for me, until way later that I had to evaluate like what Black service providers I go to, what kind of services I'm getting. And then the journey started with Black doctors, but it didn't mean that as soon as I went to a Black doctor, I found one, or that when the one I went to wasn't the right one, that I stopped. It just means finding another Black person that can do the thing.
I totally support what you're saying. I think I think that was for ratings.
Yeah.
But honestly, I just think, and if I share her name, you probably say, yep, I'm sure.
No, don't, please don't, because I can't control my face in public.
But needless to say, there were so many persons that were now reaching out for her information, and there goes the dollar. It shifted from our community. It shifted from our community, into another community. But at the end of the day, should this talk host person, I guess, have the pride or the passion? as you said, you moved from one person to the other person till you obviously can get the right person to support the message you're trying to send. So again, we all need to be educated. We shouldn't stop learning. But the foundation of the science of it, the pride behind it, the culture behind it, the awareness, I think those are great foundations to build up on and not tear down from.
Yeah, and I like what is coming out of Canada with different salons and hairstylists who are creating programs to service that gap, right? Being the knowledge, having the knowledge come from them. I want to shift the focus a little bit to anybody in the audience can pick up this question too and respond to it. I would just be curious to know, because like when it comes to natural hair, like Black women, when we gather and we start talking about our hair and whether it's natural, weaved, permed, whatever the case may be, we can be up all day, all night, hours talking about it, because it resonates, our stories resonate with one another. And I'm just wondering, like, how do you feel about the fact that when it comes to these stories, whether they're positive and negative, especially when they're negative, the fact that we can all relate because it's happened to us, or it's happened to our auntie or our uncle, or that it's great that we can relate, but is it great that we can relate because we've all been through it and we've all been biased against and treated unjustly? What are your thoughts about that? What are some of the experiences that you share with some of the characters in the story, and that you relate to, and how do you see that being able to relate not such a great thing? It has its own pros and cons.
This for the audience?
For everybody. This is a conversation. We're a village right now having a conversation. Everybody's on here.
I get accused of talking a lot, so please don't let me.
Just put you on mute.
Thank you.
Express yourself.
I think that the entire documentary resonated with me as a natural hair care specialist. When people are coming and they want to transition to anything, whether it's to natural hair, to locks, I definitely make them look at Instagram and start following new people and investigate what kind of media they're actually looking at. And one of the things that was said in the documentary is that it is like a change your hair or change your mind before you can change your hair type of a thing. Yeah, you literally have to like see it and see it differently in other ways in order to like see that reflection in yourself. So I definitely agreed with that. And I don't remember who it was from Fort McMurray. That
Judy.
was, pardon? Yes.
Judy,
yeah. So like, I guess her emotionality a long time ago, I went to college and I had a great depending on who you ask, I guess, corporate job. And then I left all of that and decided that my like one piece of resistance would be working in Black hair and making people feel like super confident and dope about themselves. And I kind of, what I thought to myself was retired at that time. So I started being an entrepreneur. So that was 11 years ago. My dad was upset. Obviously, we have our parents, like, you wasted all this education, you wasted your time and money, right? But one of the things that he was saying is that he was like, my dad was in Halifax in the 60s and 70s as well. So he's like, we already did this in the 60s. We did this in the 70s. And then what happened? Everybody permed their hair and it hurt. Like, it was painful for him. Like, it hurt his heart. But I also had to let him know that, like, no, that's not lost. Like, I'm here doing this because I'm standing on the shoulders of that. So it's in the film. Another thing that I liked is that for me in Canada, like, I grew up in Canada, but then I left for a long time and then came back. So it was really great growing up here and growing up in Beaumont. I thought I was the only Black person. Like, I was definitely the only one in Beaumont, but I was pretty sure, like, as far as the eye can see, right? Like, I didn't have a lot of other Black people to like associate with. So now being on this professional level and seeing that there were Black hairstylists all the time, even knowing about Viola Desmond and not knowing until the film that she was a hairstylist, like, just the that feeling when I was seeing her break down over people internalizing negativity about themselves, I feel very strongly about how people feel about themselves, so much so that I've had clients be like, "You listen, you don't know more about me than I know about me," and I'm like, "No, but you know, but I know it," you know. So I can understand like that part too of being like that hurt and pain, and I think I tear up and choke up every time it gets to that part of like people feeling like my hair is hard, my hair is bad, my hair is whatever, because it's like we're internalizing all this external stuff that really has nothing to do with you, you know? So I think those parts for me were definitely big.
Occasionally I still have that feeling of my hair is hard, or I wish I had a different kind of hair, because just in the work that I do, recently I did some television work again. I mean, I mostly work in radio now, and it's such a relief to not have to worry about my appearance as much as I did when I was in television, and especially about my hair. But I care less about my hair and makeup now in radio than I ever did. And it's a huge relief just in general not to be so appearance focused. Yeah. But I recently did do some television work, and I was kind of just resentful of the fact that my hair looked great that day when I left on a shoot. And then I was like, okay, but what if it's windy and rainy and we're doing the shoot outside? Okay, I better throw the scrunchie on my wrist and bobby pins, because this is not going to look good blowing around when I'm trying to interview somebody. And so why can't I just have the hair that's easy? But then, I was like, yeah, well, if you had straight hair, it'd still be probably blowing around. It just might not look quite as wild. But it's just kind of like occasionally I get that little reminder of, back to Portia when she was in grade 2 or 3 and wishing I just had that easier hair.
Sure, I will come to set with you.
What's that?
I will come on set with you.
I would love to have a stylist just come with me.
Nima, you said something that I wanted to jump on that. You said you do what you do because you love when people walk out of your chair and just feel, bomb about themselves. And I have to say, moving to Edmonton, Milo became my hairdresser, and that was one of the greatest things I appreciated about her, was that I was allowed, my locks were probably less than a year old at that point, only a few months, maybe 7-8 months at that point. And Milo made me feel great in the skin that I was in. When I walked into the office and I had just come from seeing Milo and getting my hair done, I felt awesome.
Can't nobody tell you nothing.
Right, no one could tell me anything. I felt gorgeous. I walked in with a confidence and a love for myself, but I could not have done that if a woman did not take the time to invest in learning about natural hair and be able to service me. Yeah. I couldn't have that opportunity. People like Milo didn't do what they do, and I think that we need more ambassadors like Milo, so that we can train the next generations on how to embrace that natural hair and in an empowering way.
That's empowering.
It's getting late, especially for people, Portia. It's 10:30 in Halifax right now to 11, and people in Toronto as well. So I'm going to ask 1 or 2 more questions, and then we can wrap it up. I would just like to know, you ladies, I harass you all the time throughout the whole process of the film. I was just wondering, is there anything that we haven't talked about? Any questions that you have that you like? I'm gonna ask this about the film, about, I don't know, like, if you have a chance, you like, not that you never did, but do you have any questions about the film or the making of the film, or ask the producer, I don't know, any kind of question?
I would ask, are you satisfied with the outcome? Is that exactly what you wanted? Did you get with what you wanted? Is there anything that you could have felt that you might have wanted to add or take out?
Question.
Oh, that's a good one.
Good question, Stephanie.
Yep.
I'm pretty stubborn, so I'll lead with that. And to say that I was really happy with how it turned out, how the film turned out, because, you all know I've never made a film before, but I really love storytelling. And when I went into this production, I was like, I just wanted to do two things. I wanted to make a film that was of quality, in the sense of like a film that when people are watching it, it feels like they're watching a Netflix movie or a TV show movie or something on TV. So I wanted it to be at that quality. And to me, I think it's at that quality. And people have said, oh my God, I'm watching this on my computer. I felt that I was watching Netflix, or it feels like I was at a movie theater. So when I get those comments, I'm like, okay, my job was done. Yes, yes, yes. And secondly, I wanted to tell the story the way that I wanted to tell the story, because what happens is when you're asking for money from people, you have investors investing in your film, you have grants and things like that. They have their own regulations and rules about how they can have a say, depending on what your contract and such is, of how the story goes. And I feel blessed that my first experience, the first grant that I got to do this, didn't dictate how I tell the story. So I got to tell it how I wanted to tell the story. The messages, the difference, all of you, I was like, ooh, Portia this, ooh, new, ooh. So I had a whole checklist, like, yeah, Michelle, yeah, the kids, yeah, we need that. So I wanted to bring all of those in. The one part that I did want to have in the story that my coach and mentor made me do, and I'm okay now because it turned out okay, I think, is that insert Michelle and I talked about this already. It's like putting myself in the story. I'm extroverted as can be. I'm a social butterfly. I like to be out there, but I also am very private. I don't like sharing about me, but in this film, people got to know a lot about me more than I wanted to share, which is fine. And it's all part of that story and how I wanted to tell the story. So it all came together well. And when I work on projects like this, I always like to take it back to being in Nigeria, to my ancestors, because what I do first and foremost for them, right? They are the reasons I'm here. When you watch the film, I don't know if you can recall, when I see an image, for example, like that was in the film, in the boat, and they're dangling it, they're about to throw the man overboard. Or at an image in the film where the Caucasian, the colonizer, Wakanda, they're holding the baby up like a piece of commodity. When I see those, I feel everything. Like I'm that kind of a person. Like I feel everything. So when I see those images, they evoke something in me and they take me back to my ancestors. And it's really, their stories that I wanted to tell, what happened to them in the past. How that is still an issue for their generations, which is us today. So those three things, serving my ancestors, serving in terms of telling a story that I really wanted to tell, and also to the quality that I wanted it to be at. So yes, to answer your question, I'm happy with how it turned out.
Great, thank you.
Is there anything that you ladies want to ask one another about your experiences? Like now you've watched the film and Portia knows about Nilo knows about Michelle, and so on and so forth. So is there something you're like, you want to ask one another now that you know about each other's experiences?
Oh, I'm curious, Nilo, about, I love you talking about the history of Black hair and, did that all happen at the same time? You're so knowledgeable about Black hair history and yeah, how did you sort of go down? It was a shortish answer, but how did you get into Black hair? Not just from an aesthetic point of view, but all of it.
Yeah, the rest of it. Yeah, my sister mentored me, and she had been she's 20 years older than me, and she learned from our grandmother, who I was not unfortunately, I came so late that I didn't know that generation of ancestors. So I got that from her, and she had been in business for 10 years before I even joined her. So I started in Brooklyn, and from Brooklyn, I went to North Carolina. The really incredible thing about Black history not being that long ago is that if you're in North Carolina doing hair and doing a lot of hair, which I did, I had a lot of these historical figures in my chair telling me the stories. So my interaction with these stories are like the first Black woman who went to Mount Olive School in the state of North Carolina was my client. It was like just this list, I had people who historically sat in against segregation. Like they did not want segregation. And she went through and explained to me how the economics worked of the communities that we had and Black doctors and what have you. And she explained those things to me as a person who was in the community. Like she was there, she did those things. She's actually a lawyer. She teaches at Shaw University. So I was like really lucky enough to have these mostly women from that era, from North Carolina, which even like the sit-ins are in Greensboro, North Carolina. Like I went to that counter. You can be there, and the history, many of the people are still very much alive, and they're very much there. So I would have to say like 75% of my knowledge or just the interest in it I got from the actual people who were there doing it. Like, you know, the great thing about doing hair is that you get to hear people's stories, and people who are like experts and stuff talk to you about, I don't know, a materials barrier scientist. So it gives you an opportunity to be like, what's that? You learn all this stuff, right? So I am also an avid reader, and growing up in Beaumont, I'll say it again, where I didn't get Black history, and I felt separated from. I'm Caribbean, so I'm from Guyanese, so I felt separated from African American history specifically, and I felt also separate from African Canadian history, Afro Canadian history as well. So yeah, I did more research, but I really got the opportunity to hear those stories. A lot of them were
fantastic. Wow. Yeah. I hate a missed opportunity to, create a docu-series, but it sounds like there was one there. Anyway,
yeah, I know, right? I mean, we can go back. I still have everybody's numbers and emails.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
I think this is going so great. There, it's people getting together, talking about natural hair, talking about Black hair, and the conversation can go on for days. But I think some people need to go sleep in East Coast, especially.
Early morning radio hosts. This is totally not my time zone.
Yes, I know you all have lives. Thank you so much for giving me an hour, almost 2 hours of your day today. Everybody who tuned in to watch, and the panelists, ladies, thank you so much for everything you did for this film. And now it's done, and I'm not going to drive you crazy anymore. So
now everybody's going to be like, what's the next one? It's why have you done for me lately in this business?
No, I appreciate every single one of you. You're going to make me tear up. Even before I made this film, it's crazy how I made it, because just doing the natural hair show, I had no money in my pocket. I literally just went on Google, researched like production companies in Edmonton, and like had a list of 10 of them and pitched to like 6 or 7 of them. And I was like, I'm pitching to you. I want to tell the story, but I don't have any money. Are we doing this or what? They're just like, you're kind of crazy. No, really, like none of them called me back. Which was okay, because the audacity of even trying to, partner with them. But only one of them understood the business opportunity that was in it for them, right? So they got back to me, we connected, and I chose them also too because of the female producer on there, the work that she does in the community for little girls as well. So yeah, that's how the story came, and I'm glad that it's finally done, and it premiered at film. People loved it, and you got to be a part of that conversation, getting that message out there into the world, that this is more than just hair, for whatever reasons we've been talking about all night. So I appreciate you for that, and for everybody who tuned in. You're all very passionate, and I love the stories. And yeah, thank you.
Osas,
Thank you.
for asking
Ladies,
and
thank
for
you.
the film, which we'll always have.
Which we will always
Yeah.
have.
Ladies, thank you for sharing the platform as well. Such empowering ladies. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Osas,
everybody.
for creating that
Yeah,
platform.
good connection.
Have a good night, everybody, and tune in tomorrow for the show if you have time. Thank you.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.
Take care.
Michelle.
The clap track was the bomb.
You're so extra. I love it. Oh, thank you, ladies. All right, I'm gonna go kiss my babies. I haven't seen them all day doing this, so I'm out. Thanks for tuning in, people out there.